Kennedy De Silva, representative from the National Task Force, entertainers, producers, staff of the ministry, all, good morning and welcome to our forum this morning. We are very happy to see you here, and we are hoping for full discussion this morning. I will quickly pause though before we go into the program to have Mrs. Fredericks come and share with us the opening prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Please stand. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here today to discuss the reopening of the entertainment sector. We ask your blessings on this morning's session. We pray that it would be informative and interactive. We bring to you the authorities represented here today. Grant them wisdom and understanding to make the right decisions in the best interest of this sector and our nation as a whole. Be with us all, we pray. Amen.
Let us stand for the national anthem, please. Sorry about that. Children stand free on the strength of will and love, with God in all our struggles, St. Kitts and Nevis be, nation bound together, with our common stalwarts we stand for justice and liberty, with wisdom and truth. We will serve and honor thee. No sword, no spear can conquer, for God will sure defend. His blessing shall forever to posterity extend. Thank you very much. This morning, we are here to discuss the reopening of the entertainment sector, and we would want to do so in a way that is safe and productive for all involved. We have had several deliberations, and we have made some changes in order to enhance your opportunity to thrive under these challenging global circumstances. The ministry is doing what it can to advocate on your behalf, and we will be playing an integral role in your mode of operations going forward. Like anything else, there will be hiccups along the way, but we are asking for your full cooperation while we continue to do more and to do so steadfastly with your help. We have with us this morning all of the key government agencies, as highlighted earlier, and you have an opportunity to interact, ask your questions, seek clarity, and so forth. Without further ado, I will now welcome the acting chief fire officer to bring us brief remarks, as they too will also be playing an integral role in your mode of operations going forward. I will now invite Mr. Garfield Hodge to the podium.
Madam Pierce, kindly allow me to adopt the protocol that you have so ably established. A pleasant good morning to all. It is indeed a privilege and pleasure to be here this morning to take part in the discussions pertaining to the reopening of the entertainment industry. Firstly, allow me to refresh our minds or bring to light the station nightclub fire, which occurred on the evening of February 20, 2003 in West Warwick, Rhode Island in the United States, which killed 100 persons and injured 230. The fire was caused by pyrotechnics, or what we call fireworks, which ignited flammable acoustic foam in the walls and ceilings surrounding the stage. Intense black smoke engulfed the club. In 2 minutes, the fire grew rapidly, and the billowing smoke made escape impossible, blocking egress, which further hindered evacuation. The toxic smoke, heat, and the resulting human rush toward the main exit killed, as I said, 100, injuring 230, and fortunately, 132 escaped uninjured. This fire was said to be the 4th deadliest at a nightclub in New England, as a matter of fact, in the US history, and the 2nd deadliest in New England, surpassed by the 1942 Coconut Grove fire, which killed an astounding 492 individuals. This scenario is not far-fetched from our reality here in St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, with the growing demands in our entertainment industry, particularly for concerts and parties, a situation like this is very much possible. God forbid. Hence, we must do everything we can to reduce the chances of or mitigate against such impact. Let us briefly but carefully examine the situation at the station nightclub fire. First, let us look at crowd capacity relative to the size of the venue. We had 100 deaths, 230 injured, and 132 escaped uninjured. This total 462 crowd capacity. This was said to be an overcrowded capacity relative to the size of the venue. Then, of course, this would have posed a problem when it comes to egress or exits. Patrons must have multiple exits. In fact, it is said that at that venue, there was actually one exit. Then, of course, let us examine or look at internal structural material. I note that the fire ignited flammable acoustic foam in the walls and ceilings surrounding the stage. Therefore, non-flammable materials should always be used for internal outfitting at nightclubs to reduce rapid fire spread or rapid fire growth. Then, of course, the fire suppression system. There was not in place any fire suppression system at that venue, the station nightclub fire. In fact, the experts, the fire investigators, would have concluded that had there been sprinklers fire suppression system there, the loss of life would have been reduced or would have been nil. The Fire and Rescue Services is pleased to be involved in the decision-making process as far as approval or disapproval is concerned in regards to the entertainment industry. The safety of patrons will be our main focus as we seek to protect and safeguard life and property as it is mandated by my department. The criteria for approval insofar as fire safety is concerned is as follows. Owners of clubs or hosts of events must provide an emergency plan. The outlines of the plan must be conspicuously displayed in view of patrons. Clubs or confined spaces must be outfitted with fire extinguishers. And in that regard, staff must be trained. So in the event of a fire, the fire will quickly be suppressed. There must be multiple exits at clubs or confined spaces where events will be hosted. Conspicuous exit green signage is mandatory. In the event of an emergency, persons must be able to see the exit signage, as we are seeing here. Then, of course, permission for pyrotechnics or fireworks and/or bonfires must be given by the fire department after inspection or recommendations. Finally, the structure of clubs or confined spaces must be of good integrity to prevent building collapse. And we all know what can possibly happen in the event of structural collapse. Thank you very much. I await your comments and questions.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. We'll now invite our Minister, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, to bring us brief remarks outlining the rules, protocols, and procedures going forward.
A pleasant good morning to everyone here and those who are listening and viewing via the live streaming. This morning we are here, the Ministry with responsibility for entertainment have decided to host the event, having had the approval for the guidelines for the safe reopening of the entertainment sector. Now, when we were here a few weeks ago, we would have promised you from our ministry's end that we will continue to keep you engaged and that we will continue to be open about everything that pertains to your industry. We understand that this is your livelihood. This is the career path that you have chosen, and we respect that. And so we want to make sure that whatever we do it in collaboration with you, and that you are always informed every step of the way. Now, the guidelines, we have been hearing about the recommended guidelines that would have been presented first to the COVID-19 task force for their input and then submitted to Cabinet for approval. These guidelines were not just guidelines that the ministry developed on their own. Instead, they are guidelines after having consultation with quite a number of persons within the entertainment sector. They would have given us what they thought would be important for the continued or for the reopening of the industry in a safe manner. And I dare say that in those discussions as well, the individuals and groups that we would have spoken to would have indicated that from all accounts, being able to reopen the industry at this point, it would be important that we hit the reset button as it relates to entertainment and ensure that once it resumes safely and it resumes to the benefit of the persons who actually make this their livelihoods and careers. And so what I will be pointing out today is the new procedures that would come into effect, hopefully should be by the next iterations of the SRNOs, that would be used as a guide. I thought also it would be important to come up front and early to give you the information so that you are aware and that you can plan appropriately. Because I do understand that what you do, it needs lead time and preparation in order for you to be able to pull off your different events in a manner that would be successful for you. And it would resound to the enjoyment of the patrons who come to your events as well. And so this is just a way of acknowledging the importance of the information ahead of time to allow you the opportunity to plan accordingly so that we can have a smooth enough transition when we do reopen the sector. Now, as the permanent secretary would have indicated, of course, some of it is new and there may be some hiccups along the way, but that's where we want to be able to work with you and you work with us to improve as we go along so that we can make sure it, at the end of the day, redounds to your benefit as well. The information that I will be sharing today, the ministry is compiling what we would call an information packet and checklist that you will be able to have in your possession so that you are aware of everything that is required, so it will make it easier and faster for us to be able to process whatever applications are required for approval. And so I'll go into the application process and being able to apply for an event, and then I would speak to capacity and protocols for events. So as we resume or reopen the entertainment industry, one of the things that we are requesting or requiring is that notification of intent to host a mass event or any event that would be through the Permanent Secretary's Office at the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Communications on Entertainment and Talent Development. This is simply so that when you come into us, what the ministry will do, we will assign you an event liaison officer. This event liaison officer, even though you have the packet, will go through all of the documents that would be required for approval, make sure everything is in order so that your approval process would be seamless. In a way, what we are trying to do is create an ease of doing business for the entertainment industry. And so some of the information that will be required, of course, would be the contact information of the primary person hosting the event, proposed date and venue for the event, start times, finish times, anticipated quantity of attendees, the anticipated ticket cost, the type of event that you will be having, but most importantly, a copy of your business license. So we have to make sure that that information is part of what you present to us at the ministry. Now, you are coming to our ministry to provide your intent to host the program and bring together all your information so that we can assist you in getting the approvals that you need. However, there's going to be 3 main departments from which you would have to be able to get approval. Previously, approvals was through the police, and they had created the police.kn webpage to allow you to easily upload your approval request. However, the purpose of having fire go before us to explain the importance of safety is because we've added the element where fire will also have to provide an approval, and the Ministry of Health, through the CMO's office, would also have to provide approval. Now, you would not be approved for your event until all 3 departments approve your event. And so let's start with the approval from the police. The information for the police remains the same as you would have done in the past. So you log on to their portal and you provide all the necessary information that you already have to provide to the police in order to be able to get your permission. Now, in terms of health, you would submit some information that will be passed to health in order for health to give their approval. What will be passed to health in particular is your COVID-19 compliance plan, copy of your liquor license if you are going to be selling alcoholic beverages, the number of food or beverages stalls that would be at your event, and evidence of appropriate food handlers' permits. So these are the items that would be required for health in order for health to be able to give their approval. And of course, you know, prior to the close down of, well, when we had that small opening of the entertainment industry, you are all well aware of the COVID-19 compliance plan, just to make sure that whatever event you are having is being done safely within the protocols and guidelines of COVID-19. Now, we're not asking you to go to health to submit or to go to fire to submit. That information you will provide to us at the ministry, and the ministry will then provide it to those other 2 departments, that is fire and health, and we will follow up on your behalf to make sure the approvals are turned around in a timely manner. And then after those 2 departments will provide their approval, then the police will go ahead and do their part for the final approval. Now, in terms of fire, you heard the acting chief would have spoken to the emergency plan. Wherever your venue for your event will be held, there must be an emergency plan that must be submitted. It will be followed up with a walkthrough by fire to make sure that the venue will be safe to have the event for you, for your patrons who will be coming to the event, as well as persons who will be participating in the events, like your artists, your DJs, etc. And so some of the information that will be required for that emergency plan would be the layout of the venue. It would be clearly identifying the entrances, corridors, and exits, and making sure those are clearly marked. Making sure we have enough entrances and exits based on the capacity size for the venue. Making sure that we are aware of the location of the stalls and your stage to make sure that it is, again, safe for the number of persons that would be present. The location and type of fire prevention and control equipment, parking for patrons and emergency agencies, location of other services, that is food and beverage stands, bathrooms, garbage disposal, etc., medical equipment and medical attention capacity at the facility, and evacuation plan and procedures, just in case there is some type of emergency that persons will be able to exit safely, and we do not end up with a situation, as the acting fire chief would have explained, with hundreds of persons ended up dying and over 200 injured. And so, just to go over again, going forward, in order for you to host your events, the main thing that you have to bear in mind is, the first thing you have to indicate your intent to host the mass event to the ministry. So you come to our ministry, or you provide us with the information that of your intent to host an event. That information must include a copy of your business license, as well as the other important information, such as the contact information of the person who will be hosting the event, the proposed date, venue of the event, start, finish time, anticipated number of persons attending, anticipated ticket costs, and the type of event that you are having. Then, 3 agencies needs to give their approval in order for the event to be able to happen safely. The police, the Commissioner of Police through the Police KN portal, the Ministry of Health through the Chief Medical Officer, and then the Chief Fire Officer. All 3 have to give their approval in order for your event to happen. Now it might sound as if, why do I need to have all of these approval? But again, it's about safety, just to make sure that the events happen in a safe environment. It might also sound tedious, but it really isn't, because the Ministry of Entertainment would act as that gateway for you and be able to follow up on your events once you're assigned that liaison officer. Make sure it moves through the system in good timing to allow you to be able to get your approvals on time so that you can move forward with the planning of your events. And so, as I indicated, all this information that I just read out will be provided at the ministry. We're creating they already created the checklists so that you are aware of everything that is required once you show an intent to have your event and you want to be able to have the approvals to have that event. And so we are hoping that this would be done in a fashion where we can all work together to make it work. I know that over the past few months, from about January, based on the discussions that we've been having with persons within the industry, these are some of the things that they would have highlighted to us, that they believe that it's time for us to create proper structures for the industry to make sure things are done in a way that is safe and fair for everyone involved, especially for those who take these things seriously, and for them, it's their only means of livelihood. And so this is what we're trying to create. Again, change takes time for everybody to get used to and comfortable with. But one thing about the ministry is that where we stand, we believe that working together as a team, that is the ministry, and those of you within the industry, we will be able to get it to a point where we all are able to be comfortable with the procedures going forward, and they won't have as much conflict, because I know over the months we've had many complaints that something is taking too long, or people don't understand that it's a business that we're operating, it requires lead time, the approvals are coming too late. Those are the things we want to eliminate, those simple things that cause quite a bit of frustration unnecessarily in our estimation. Now, in terms of the events themselves, what we have come up with in dialogue with the Ministry of Health as well as the COVID-19 task force, all along we've been saying that we want to be able to reopen in a safe manner. And so piece by piece we are opening until we are opened in a safe manner. Just on Tuesday, you would have heard on Leadership Matters where the Prime Minister indicated that we're targeting at 80% of our adult population being vaccinated. That would allow us to be comfortable with the risk of persons being able to contract, spread, and we believe that with an 80%, at least 80% of our adult population vaccinated, that it would not, we are hoping that it would not overwhelm our health system, because the reality is that our health system is very fragile, and so we have to protect the health system in order to protect you. And so in our discussions, what we have determined is that in this phase of the reopening, because this is only the first phase of the reopening of the entertainment industry, we would have events at 75% capacity. So wherever the venue is, based on the number of persons that would normally be able to be at that venue for an event, we would expect that. And at this time, then it's a paid event. These are what are required in order for you to be able to get the approvals that are necessary. Bars that are having an event, again, this is not the bar. You come, you sit, you drink, you entertain yourselves with a little bit of music, fine. But if it is an event that you're planning to bring in people that will be a paid event that is outside of your normal, yes, you have to go through the process of getting approvals for that specific event to make sure that you are following all of the proper regulations. Now, what I can say in terms of venues, obviously, we basically know the main venues that events are held. So in terms of the approvals from fire, once fire gives approval for a venue, the expectation is that that approval is for a year. So going forward, so if I have an event at, say, okay, as I say, something about Truth Bar. So if I say I have an event, as an example, at Truth Bar, I'm having an event at Truth Bar. The fire have already gone. They've already inspected Truth Bar before, so they already know everything about the emergency plans or whatever, and Truth Bar had already been given the permissions. Then you're able to use that. You don't have to go through the full process again because Truth Bar is already identified as a place that have been given the approval to have an event already. So that would be how that would work. But as I said, like, if a bar is having an event, they have to be able to apply the same way because it's something that is outside of what their normal business operation is. This is a event that they're having. So they're now going from being just a bar to actually doing a promotion type of event. So that is going to be required. To be able to get response in a timely manner. That is what our liaison officers will try to insist upon and ensure that we're able to turn around in a timely manner. And I'm happy that everybody is here from all the various departments, so they're hearing the cry. So then they would understand that when our liaison officers keep following up and said, we're at that deadline, it's been 3 days that you've been given this, can we please get the response, approved or denied, so that we can move on to the next and make sure the persons get their approvals or denials in a timely manner. That is what we are aiming for. Everything imperfect on the first go. But we'll work through the kinks, and I'm sure we will get there. But that is the whole reason of the ministry being involved in the process, so that we can try to move things through in an efficient manner, so that you get the approvals or denials in a timely manner to allow you to be able to effectively market your event and have a successful event, if you are approved. You mean in terms of, we've already set and said 75 capacity. We know the venue can hold 100 persons, so then you determine 75% of that. This is the amount of persons that should be in the room. Effectively, it would be based on, the calculation and those things, they would explain to you, but I think you're asking after you've already been given the approvals and the compliance and police officers are coming around and doing their checks. That's what they're talking about. So you already know how many persons are allowed. This is, at the gate, you're expected to keep the record of the number of persons that have entered, and you're expected that once you reach that maximum, that will be the cutoff. And so the book or whatever you use to keep that information of persons coming in should give you the number of persons that are in the facility already. So it's going to be a matter of trust. And we would expect that persons will do as they expect to do. I am sure moving forward we would have all of those things, a better understanding. That's why we're all here today. We'll hear it, and then once they hear it, they know how to inform their officers appropriately.
Okay, good morning, everyone. In terms of the capacity issue, two persons would have raised such a question. And so the COVID-19 task force, along with the Ministry of Health, they were involved in terms of the inspection of the common venues for events. And we use the 30 square foot per person to calculate the capacity in the context of COVID-19. And so this is used to determine, this will have to be used to determine the 75% capacity cut point that is being referred to by the minister. I recently traveled and I took some pictures because what I realized what they're doing in other countries is they now have a little sign at the entrance where it's official. So once that determination is made, it's official capacity and you see the number. So it's not random and haphazard. So when the authorities come by to check, it's noted there, and then they can then look at the number of persons who would have entered and make a determination if you're under the capacity cut point or over, and then the necessary steps can be taken. Now that I have the mic, the previous speaker, she asked about the new variant that is in circulation. And so the World Health Organization is meeting today to assess this new COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa. This morning, it was deemed the most heavily mutated strain identified so far. And you are correct in saying that some countries have already highlighted that they are placing restrictions on persons traveling from South Africa and nearby territories. As a federation, we may have to do that the same in terms of making that determination. Now, so you were asking if this is in circulation, how would this affect events? All right, so COVID is very fluid. The situation changes daily because we all woke up to this news this morning. But what pertains in the Federation right now is that we've just contained the third wave. We've reported 2,777 confirmed cases. However, our daily counts is at an all-time low right now. And so given the present context, events, it's safe to consider hosting of events at this point in time. However, we still have to monitor what's happening on the global stage and this new variant that is emerging. Okay, that's a very good question, but the response lies in your hands, my hands, and all our hands in terms of, okay, prior to May 19, we were practically virus-free. But since May 19th, when the virus was reintroduced, we are now in community transmission. And so the virus is still in circulation in low numbers. We're not in an outbreak, yeah? And so what we are saying, it is safe now to have events You're asking if what's going to happen down the, 2 months down the line. That's unpredictable. That's why I say COVID is very dynamic, it's fluid, and we just have to monitor what's happening regionally and globally, and we will take the necessary actions as we go forward. But we all need to take responsibility and prevent a lockdown. How can we do that? Helping to increase the vaccination coverage. So the response to this new variant that is in circulation is pumping up our vaccination coverage and the other COVID-19 prevention measures of face masks, hand sanitization, and social distancing. So that's why the protocols that you are going to use to guide your events is so important. Because a gathering of people, social gathering, has the potential of being a super spreader, whereby one positive case can result in an outbreak amongst the attendees. So the protocols that event organizers are going to follow is going to be very critical, so that you host your event, persons come, enjoy themselves, go home, and you don't have an outbreak amongst the attendees. So that's your part. And if you do that successfully, you could prevent a future lockdown. So if you host your events in a safe manner, without any outbreaks amongst the attendees, that won't feed an outbreak in the country or in the federation, and we won't have to go into lockdown. So the responsibility is actually in your hands to prevent a lockdown.
Yes, so I think there was another question as to whether the checklist would be available to the public. I said that earlier, that the checklist will be at the ministry and persons can come there to collect. We also will be introducing our social media and web page shortly, so the information will also be there. But to just continue from what CMO was, and I've said it earlier and I'm going to say it again, I don't want us to have to open up the industry in order to have to close it down again. And so I am urging every one of you in here to help us, to continue to help you, in the sense that, just as the CMO indicated, at your events, just make sure that the persons who are at the events are doing what they are supposed to do, so that way nobody can point a finger and say, well, we had this outbreak and it points back to this event. Because once everybody's doing what they are supposed to do, then you won't have that, and we won't have to come back into a room where we have to decide whether or not to close down the industry. I don't want that. I want us to go from this phase into phase 2, where we can say 100% capacity, and into a next phase where we can say the possibility of unvaccinated being at the events. But we can't get there until we are sure that everybody's doing their part and we see it working safely. And we know that you two are doing your part to make sure that your livelihoods are protected as well.
Good morning. Dwayne Fergus here, DJ Flames. I know we continue to talk about mass event and fets and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys touched base on it earlier because I came a bit late. I want to know what mechanisms are going to be in place for the average bars and night spot that hire regular DJs or resident DJ Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I know for the mass events, they are fully vaccinated. What are we going to do for the Aqua Lounge, the chairs, the champions that normally hire a DJ like myself and a regular? Would something go in place the same way pertaining to vax or unvax? Because at this moment, we are open and we have both vax and unvax are coming there. So I would like to know what are going to go in place, because fets and so is maybe every 2 months or 6 weeks. But the core of entertainment is weekly. So I want to know what are going to be in place for the smaller bars who hire DJs regular, and at this time is open and having vax and unvax mingling at the same time. I want to know if there's something going to be in place for that.
Good morning. Just touching on what Flame said. Currently, we have an integrated society, and I just would like clarity as to what is defined as a mass event. I mean, you've already outlined that the capacity is based on the venue, so 75% of the venue. Now, let's say, for example, Aqua Lounge decides to advertise Sparry is the resident DJ. Is there any authority that would now determine that because Sparry have a lot of fans, it is a mass event? What is missing for me is the number. At which number are you considering it to be a mass event? Because earlier the minister said 150 to 200 people is considered mass. As it stands right now, on any given Friday, without regulations, and this is not for the business to stop. This is just me saying that we could look at this as a gauge for statistics. Every Friday, you have over 2,000 people on the beach in rotation. A standstill event is the safest event because even the clubs, you have to get sanitized, temperature checks, contact tracing. None of this takes place on the beach. None of this takes place. Even, some business places during the daytime, yes, but we are social people, and even at work, all this aesthetics with the mask on, it changes, it comes off. So we mingle. So ultimately, as it relates to vax and unvax, mass and not mass, that is what I want to know, because as it stands right now, Carnival technically is already in full swing, and based on the procedures, we really need to know what is what and what defines what in order for us to plan accordingly. And if it is that mass events, are considered fully vaccinated, then how do we convey this to the public who see Sparry last night at Truth Lounge, but he can't perform the following day at Silent Night because he ain't vaccinated? So I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but one of the things that I really was looking forward to hear is the introduction of rapid testing, which I still would like to hear about. But for now, what is the definition of a mass event? Because for me, I don't know about other promoters, but technically, based on what it is now, I don't feel comfortable saying that an event is fully vaccinated because you have people that are unvaxxed already enjoying a level of freedom with the vax, which is fine, and that's the way I think that it should be. But my event could easily be boycotted because everywhere else, swinging, where people have freedom, and if my friend can't come to an event, if they were having Silent Night, they're doing Inception, whatever it is, our numbers will be automatically affected because not all the entertainers are vaccinated either. Yes, the onus was on them. Some genuinely cannot take the vaccine for underlying conditions. So, can we look forward to hearing that rapid tests would be a part of the equation, or as it stands now, as long as it is a mass event, and a mass event is considered anything over, let's say, I don't know, you give us the number. As long as it is a mass event, you just know that it needs to be a fully vaccinated function. And then we convey this to the public accordingly. Thank you.
All right, I think the two questions are basically the same. So I think I did indicate earlier that a bar has a license to conduct a specific type of business, that is, you're selling drinks to the general public, maybe you have food, etc. The minute you introduce an event for the bar, then you have to seek the same permissions, and it comes under the same remit, where it is 75% fully vaccinated only. As long as, especially if it's going to be an event where people are going to come in, it's a paid event, it's an advertised event, it must be 75% capacity, fully vaccinated only, and have to go through the same type of procedure in order to be able to get the approvals that are being required. I think I would have said earlier that we are looking at the reopening of the entertainment industry in a phased approach. Right now, we are at 80%, or we are saying that 80% of our adult population vaccinated is a comfortable position for us to be able to open in a safe way in terms of the entertainment industry as well as other things within the federation, and we'll be able to handle the risk associated based on the fact that we have at least 80% of our adult population vaccinated. Now, in this phase, the risk that we are willing to take is to have these events with just fully vaccinated at 75% capacity. Then we can move to 100% capacity. And then once we're at another level where we're comfortable that the risk for having these events versus the number of immunized individuals in the country is at a level that we can absorb the risk, then we can move into the testing at the events for persons who may not be fully vaccinated in order to enter. So we are in a phased way reopening the industry, and we're hoping that once everybody do or follow the protocols that are being laid out, we would not see any real fallout from the events, that we won't have to say that we have an increased number of cases and these cases are pointing back to an event because then persons were not following the protocols, and then it leads the authority to make a decision to put a pause again. So that's where that's where we are at right now. 80% vaccinated gives us the comfort that if we have events fully vaccinated, we are comfortable that we'll be able to absorb that risk. I'm sorry? Right now, as of yesterday, we were at 79.9%. We're almost there at the 80%. No, what I'm saying is that 80% is where we are, is what drives these current protocols and guidelines. Unless they get the required permissions and approvals.
I don't know if it's me. Everybody else understanding the response? So you don't understand the response? What are you guys not getting? Because I want to ensure that I am not seen as the black sheep in the room, because as Sensia said, and I want to say this in front of the minister, there is actually victimization and targeting that takes place when you choose to speak out on certain things. I don't want to be a victim of that. Period. So to anybody who is in authority in the room right now, do not blacklist me because I am asking for clarity. And other people don't get it as well. So what I'm trying to figure out, because we're dealing with the general public, and this is our business and stakeholders, we must know how to invest and how to move forward. What capacity determines that you need to have vaccinated only people? Because all, except for the strip, because they can't charge anybody to come there, that's the biggest function every weekend. In terms of bar owners, you're saying that if they're charging people to enter and they're having featured DJs, then the people who come in need to be vaccinated. Right? So technically, the bars can't advertise, or even if I have an event at a bar, I cannot advertise DJs, and I also can't charge. That's Cromwell? Okay, perfect. Give me some light, sir. Huh? Oh, sorry, Minister. Look how you have on the mask. I can't hear you, baby. Oh, okay. So just clarity for us all, please. What I'm trying to figure out, and this is based on patrons asking questions before they spend the money to go to an event or to go to a bar or a club, and also the communication process. Because now, it's like you're saying, the doors got trouble, and if the doors trouble, then vaccinated and unvaccinated could be together. What are we accomplishing? There has to be a threshold, in my opinion. There has to be a cutoff, and there has to be a level of comfort in saying, okay, well, at this number, the venue can have vax and unvax as long as they go through the regular protocols. But technically what I'm hearing is, as long as the public doesn't know that it's an event taking place there this Friday and they're free to go, then they could mingle. Is everybody else understanding it that way as well? Thank you very much. Clarity, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Franz. Okay, let me try to respond to the question you asked about the bars, whether if the bars advertise a DJ and they're charging to enter, if they have to apply for permission. That's what you asked?
As well as the status of the patrons coming, vax or unvax.
Right. Now, if you're having a normal bar operation, but you have a DJ, in order to boost your entrance, there's not necessarily an entrance fee. The DJ is just to attract a larger crowd. That would not be considered an event, so to speak. It is your bar operation with a DJ to boost your customers. And so that would not be considered an event. An event is where you're having a function where you have artists performing and you're charging, you have a cover charge to enter. That would be, and it usually would not happen at a bar. That is my understanding. But having the DJ at the bar would require permission from the police, because that would be considered loud music. And the laws require permission to be sought and given for persons to have loud music in public. So having a DJ at a bar would be considered loud music, and that would require permission from the police outside of this particular provision. But where it becomes an event is where you're having performances and you're charging persons. I know it's going to create some controversy because there's a very thin line whether I'm charging persons to enter. They have to be vaccinated, and if I'm not charging persons to enter, they need not be vaccinated. But it would always be ticklish when it comes to bars.
Okay, so
I think what this legislation or these guidelines are intending to control is events outside of the bars, events at other venues that are not usually used. For example, on a ball court, on a play field, in a stadium. I think it's more geared to controlling those type of events rather than every little event in a bar or in a small venue.
I'm glad you said that, because it was a little bit confusing, because the DJs them to me has been getting a lot of fight. I'm a DJ and I can talk on behalf of a DJ. My question is, if you have a system in your house and you have the knots up to 10, right? And I am a DJ and I play on the same system and it's up to 10, what's the difference with the sound and the loud noise? Because it's basically the same loud noise. I could put in a mixtape with Sensio and main playing, you understand? Would that be considered an issue? Because at the end of the day, it's still the same speaker. If you come and you say, okay, you could have a DJ and you just keep it down to a level. You understand? I'm showing you, to me, it's just basically the same system, same speakers, same noise. You understand? And I just feel like the DJs, them getting cut out when they could just have a normal DJ in the clubs playing music and keeping the entertainment just like how we could make $1 from it, because it's just the same noise. It's just for you now to say, hey, keep it at the tone level like you do in your letters when you're sending them out. Another question for the ministry. Now, we now have to go to the ministry for large functions, right? But at the end of the day, when we don't get to the ministry and we get the okay, but yet a police coming to shut it down, will your ministry be sending out your representative with the police then for these events to say, hey, okay, the capacity ain't over, the capacity is here, why are you shutting down? Because there's a lot of, how must I put it, targeted clubs. Like some person might not like the club, you know what I mean, and they don't like the owner, and because they don't like the owner, they get targeted and they get shut down for absolutely no reason. And I think there needs to be some kind of boundary set with something like that where you have control. Because like the young lady asked earlier about the liaison officer, who gonna guard the guard? You understand? Because there's some people who just do willful things, and these willful things needs to stop. Because at the end of the day, this is my bread. Yesterday, I telling my child, man, if I can get to buy a Christmas gift, because me making the money. Sparrow said yesterday he coming up here, come beg for $200 to try to support the children. Because we ain't got the money. We ain't making the money. So at the end of the day, I feel like they need to, especially with like the nightclubs, you have Thursday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday night. You know, you just put a DJ in there, we play normal music, and at the end of the day, we make $1. Why are we being targeted for the same music being toned at the same level, whether you have a DJ there or not?
Greetings. I plan not to say nothing, but again, what Sensei just say, I think the DJs being targeted too hard because I don't been at like bars and the bar owners pay me personally. Sparry, I give $50. Please stay at home, don't mix, do your talking, so I could play at me little bar and keep the people them. And I done at bars with my life playing what the bar owner pay me for. And task force come in because they hear my voice and looking. And when they don't see me, they feel good. It's okay because they don't see me DJing. It's okay. But my life in there playing, they hearing my voice, and it's okay. It ain't okay because they hear my voice. The capacity good, everybody enjoying themselves, and it's okay. But they're looking for a DJ, you know, landlord. Hey, I'm so glad I got some good child mother because I can't support.
Okay, this question is for Mr. Cromwell. You said something earlier about nightclubs. And from what I gathered, a nightclub owner, you go to Inland Revenue, you get your business license to operate as a nightclub. I understand if we're doing something major, we're bringing an artist and traffic and all of them stuff there. Yes, we should liaise with the police officers to get permission to make sure that we have, you know, proper dynamics, how traffic is going to flow and stuff like that. The question I would like to ask, why should I go to Inland Revenue, get myself a business license to operate as a club owner, and still have to go back to the police now to ask permission to have a regular DJ throughout the week? That's the question I would like to know, because it's contradiction, because Rams TDC don't need permission from the police to open regular. But if Rams and TDC are going to do a sale and stuff like that, yes, they will talk to the police about traffic and stuff like that. So I think there have to be a balance. Nightclubs are operating with DJs, with local artists and stuff like that, should not require permission from the police to operate when you already have the business to practice what you already selling to the public. I would like you to address that for me, please.
Yes, that is a very good question, a very good point that you've made there. But you have to consider the type of license. Sometimes we say nightclub, they operate as a nightclub, but when you look at their license, they have a regular bar license. And so that is why we ask these establishments to upload their business license as part of the application. And sometimes the business license doesn't match what they're applying for. So a lot of these businesses, establishments that operate as nightclubs, their license do not say that.
Okay, understood. But why is it you guys don't make it public? Because, for example, I'm a promoter. I don't have a set place. I have a license to promote. If I'm going in a enclosed club, the same club, to do a regular event, why should I need permission as well? Because I have my business license to operate. I understand if I'm doing an event in the general space where nuisance to the community and stuff like, I need permission. But if I'm going in an enclosed club where the music is not going out, a regular party, nothing to obstruct traffic and stuff like that, why should I need a permission to operate? Once that building already inspected by fire and health and stuff like that to operate out here, why should we keep on going to the police to get permission to work when we have our business license ready to operate? So I think you guys need to actually fine-tune some stuff and make it be easier for us to operate. I mean, you have Aqua Lounge. Why should we be sending out permission every single week to open, to operate? It shouldn't be happening. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, we take the point, and I'm certain that's something that we can look at.
Morning, Rashid Eddie, promoter. I got here late, so I was able to, get everything that was said. However, my question this afternoon is there any training being done with the members of the task force committee and the police officers? Once again, is there training being done with these people who would more or less come to the events and check to see what is happening? Reason for that is because events go on and members of the task force will just come. First of all, my problem is some of them that don't introduce themselves and who they are. It's like they're here to do whatever, so they just barge in at the event. And it is something that's required for them to do because communication is key. You understand? So that's just my question. Instead of just coming in because you have this sort of power and you just walk out, okay, well, it look like too much people in here. So shut it down. When they try to ask what's happening, I don't need to tell you. I don't need to tell you what's going on. Just shut it down. And this is something that's been happening and it's time for a change. So I would like to get an answer to that question, please.
Yes, the compliance team officers are trained, the police officers are trained, and if what you just described happened, it is not something that we condone, not something that we tell them to do. If they go to an establishment, of course, they would be in uniform. So you should be able to identify them by their uniform. The shirt marks compliance team. Let me finish. Presently, there are always police officers with them, most of the time, especially on weekends. And the police officers are always in uniform, so they don't need to tell you, I am Constable X or I am Constable Y. You just need to identify them as police officers. If you are in breach, they really should inform you of the breach. They should have a conversation with you, let you know what your infraction is, and then let you know whatever decision that they're making, whether they're going to issue you a ticket, whether they're going to have you let out some of the persons, or whether they're going to have you stop. They should tell you what their decision is and why they're taking that decision. I can't imagine they're going to just come in and tell you, look, shut down the place, don't ask me nothing. That doesn't sound like something that, but if that happens, it is wrong. Okay, for me personally, what I've seen most of the times when a place is overcrowded, the register that you keep shows that it is over the number. If your capacity is 20 or 30, the register would have you in 40 or 50 because persons are required to write their names as they enter. And the register would have more names than what is permitted. And so based on that alone, that is sufficient grounds. But in some instances, the officers do count. They are there for enough time to count and give a rough estimate based on their count.
May coming back after this, but
As
if
to the
you
number
have
of persons
30 people
there.
in an event, 5 people might get fed up and go home and walk out the event, but we have to keep those names because we have to send it to the ministry. So we can't scratch out the names and say 5 people gone home, you understand? And then 5 people come back in. So instead of coming and shutting down, like you said, because it happens, okay, come on, be self-conscious instead of shutting down a whole event. Do a count then, pause it then. You understand? Whatever. But my thing is that you can't shut them because 10 of us could go in and do drinks, whatever. We get crunk, we go home, and then 10 people come after us. At the same time, the capacity still there. But people do come and go. Man, coming back here, lad.
God, Minister. Okay, so quickly, the
Okay,
minister,
it's on now. Just to say that I hear you and I understand where you're coming from. And I think you're saying, persons can leave. It happens. That's how those events go. So perhaps what we can do is find another way so that if the task force show up, if they're not going to, well, you just heard them say, you can go in, stop their music, and do your count. They just tell you that. Mine, I hear them for myself, eh? So when you come in and you stop the music, I'm just saying, this is a suggestion coming from you. So that if it's a suggestion coming from you, we're going to go with it. Granted. So because I totally understand. The persons come and persons go, the names have to be there because at the end of the day, we're all there. Or we could have another one where if persons leave, then we keep track of that too. That's another way we can do it as well. But that's a thought. But I like the fact that y'all said that they can come in and just stop the music. Let's just do a quick check and count for ourselves, and then we can move on from there. Everybody pause. It could be like just before, this is just a light moment, just before they ask for the music to shut down, we play the Grandmaster's Mannequin song, and then we just like, make everybody stop like Mannequin, count it when you're done, you just start it again, right, workers? So that they start dancing again. But just a thought. But I understand what you're saying, and I can see where that might be important as well. I too was thinking, well, the names in the book, but then, yeah, you're right. People do leave and come, and that happens. So that could be a good way to do a check. And I see Cromwell saying yes and taking note, so that's something that we can do going forward. But I just also wanted to address, like, in terms of the bars themselves, our ministry does not manage the functioning of the bars themselves, but I take it. And that's something that now I would have to take back for us to look at. Is it that we're going to say that from the entertainment side of things, we're asking people to be fully vaccinated? So is it that this is what we would want to require of anyone entering bars for different events and those things? So I like that you guys brought that to the forefront. So now we can go back and have that discussion before the regs are changed and make that suggestion. Cromwell, so that we can have that in the new regs as well, so that the bars, because we don't manage the bars from the ministry side of things. So right now, what we are talking to you about is based on what we manage, what we are responsible for, have some responsibility for, which is the entertainment and the promoters, the artists, etc., etc. And so I like that you brought that to the fore. Funds, no, you won't be blacklisted because you brought something to the fore that we probably did not pay close enough attention to, that you have the information for. So now getting that, we can go back and see how we can make the necessary adjustments. I know you are looking forward to the day when vaxxed and unvaxxed will be able to party together again with the use of antigen testing, if that is what we have to do, and all of that. Eventually we will get there. Eventually we will get there. Right now, what this is doing, any paid event that you are having that's going to bring a number of persons together that you're having a paid event for, consider it to be an event that needs permission. You're hosting an event at Truth Lounge, so it is an event that you're having, not Truth. Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to get the permissions under this. Correct. They're having, yes. Yes. Events are fully vaccinated only. That is what we are saying. But you just added the layer that we don't manage the bars. And so that is another element that we have to look at outside of having an event. If a bar is open for business, we may have to consider that something needs to go into the regs for fully vaccinated only as well, so that we are fair across the board. But nobody going in there to socialize in the way that we socialize in courts. It is not. And if you were here from the beginning, you would have heard the explanation. And if you've been paying attention all along, I mean, Fons, you know, you and I have sat down many times and discussed this over and over again. And you're trying to put in different things that are not under the purview of what we are looking at right now. Mass events. According to the World Health Organization, a mass event is an event that brings together a number of people that is so large that it has the potential to strain the planning and response resources of the health system in the community in which that event takes place. Okay? And so our country is small. And when we have these events, let's be real. When we have these events, it brings together a good amount of people, no matter what. So we are just saying that when we are having events, and we know your type, the events that you have, the events that might happen at Truth Lounge or whatever, these are events that bring together a good, large amount of people. So we are just trying to do things safely. That's all we are doing. And all I'm saying is that right now, the risk that we are willing to take is for fully vaccinated only to be at these events. Eventually, we'll get to that place where we can have mixed events. But right now, at this stage, the Ministry of Health, the COVID-19 Task Force, and all responsible are willing to accept the risk for fully vaccinated only events. But we will get there. As long as you're having an event where you're paying for, and it's outside of the normal, you have to get the permissions. And the permissions and the protocols based on that is saying 75% capacity, fully vaccinated only events. What I'm saying is that outside of that, if the bar is functioning as its normal procedures and it's just saying that we want to bring in someone to play some music or whatever, we now have to go back and revisit how that is done to see whether or not we would want to say that too must be fully vaccinated. So that it's fair across the board. And at this time, I would say from where we sit, and I'm sure if CMO was here still, she would agree that that's probably a recommendation that we do have to make, and thank you for bringing that forward. All right.
Oh, the year compliance that you mentioned later on.
The what? Sorry?
The year compliance, the certification from fire and so forth for the
venue
establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an unannounced tax? Is that something that will have to be paid for by the event owner / manager of the building?
What we're doing now, we're not speaking to any taxes or anything like that.
So it's a free thing.
It's just so that you'll be able to safely have your events. That's all we're looking at.
Okay, so they will, okay. And someone
More
wanted
than
to
your
know if
last
we have,
question.
yes, it is my last. If we're having vaxxed-only events and so forth, why not 100% capacity versus the 75?
Because we're not at that point where we're ready to assume that level of risk.
But
right now, the ministry is comfortable that with the 80% of our adults population vaccinated, the risk that we're willing to take is at a 75% capacity. More people means more opportunity to be able to have a spread. So we're just limiting the numbers so that even if we do have a spread, it's still not as widespread as we would. We will take these as the last two questions because we have to wrap up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Corey Tyson here, representing live bands and musicians. Over the last year or so, it would be apparent to us in the band fraternity that we've been blacklisted.
What, sorry?
Us in the live musician band fraternity, it seems as if we've been somewhat blacklisted. Whereas once a band applies for permission to, or a promoter applies for permission for an event, and a live band is on there, the stipulation is made that the band must be removed. It's okay for Lucas and David House to perform using just a laptop and him singing, but the minute a drum set is involved or a bass guitar is involved, then the permission is denied. Just for a point of clarification, moving forward, are we bands, are we going to be able to apply our trade and get back to work? A lot of us has been home and in the band house doing lives for the past year or so. So just for a point of clarification, moving forward, would we be able to work?
As long as the promoters want you to be at their event, or if you're doing your own event, you're saying? No, there's no issue with artists or bands being at events at this point, with the protocols that we're having moving forward. But I just want persons to bear in mind that the events are for fully vaccinated only.
Good afternoon. Glenn back from SK News 9. This meeting started with comments made by the fire chief. And all across the world, there are numerous examples of events with some tragic endings in which fire escapes are involved for enclosed spaces, where fire exits are marked, but they're not open. They can't be open, and many people die because of that. With the new process that you're recommending right now, you're saying that the fire department has to be involved. When they inspect the places, when they inspect the venues for an enclosed event, what stipulations are going to be made about emergency exits? And related to that issue is the matter of training, because someone is having an event, but they don't have anyone who is specifically assigned to ensuring that the operation of that event is taking place safely and monitoring the situation. So is it to be expected that a bartender, realizing that the emergency, will suddenly convert himself into a safety officer and try to get people out of that venue in some kind of safe manner? This also seems to imply that there's going to be another level of cost involved for persons who are carrying out special events within enclosed spaces. And that is another issue that you'll have to look at, because it is not simply and I'm talking more in terms of people who are running a business, like a restaurant, bar, entertainment kind of operation within an enclosed space that requires a sort of constant personnel to be there. So it's not a one-off situation. It's not a once a year or twice a year, that kind of thing. I'm talking about people who are running these kind of businesses. That is going to be an added cost that they have to consider in their operations. Could you comment on those, please?
When you say added cost, you mean just to make sure that
safety aspect,
everything that relates to the safety of persons who utilize their facility is considered to make sure that everybody is safe, correct?
Yes.
So making sure they have all the required exits, the exits are workable, make sure they have a working fire extinguisher if it's necessary, and to be able to train their staff as to what should I do in the event of an emergency.
Yes, and added to that is the issue that the fire chief himself mentioned in terms of the structure and the kinds of material that you have within that structure, because all of these things are considered to me as an issue of safety. And so when someone applies for a business license to carry out a certain kind of entertainment type operation within enclosed spaces on a regular basis, it seems to me that the issue of material and structure has to be considered.
Do you want to address that, Mr.? Would you like to address that? Cromwell?
Thank you very much. As it relates to the staff being trained, I would have outlined in my introduction that it is important that the staff at these clubs be trained when it comes to the use of the extinguisher. I also would like to recommend that drills, evacuation drills, be conducted at least biannually. It is important that these establishments take note, because at the end of the day, the life of patrons are very, very important, and of course, their lives would be at risk. It is not something to be taken lightly. These recommendations are to be adhered. And the gentleman is correct. The staff would be somewhat safety officers, unless, of course, you would want to engage the fire department. Of course, you would have to pay us, I would imagine. But we stand available readily to assist in that regard.
And I'm sure, just in general, though, that if you have an establishment, you want to make sure that it's safe. So even if you are having to pay a little extra to make sure it's safe, I wouldn't want to be the owner of a facility and then something happens, an emergency happens, and a number of persons lose their lives. If I can prevent that by making sure that my facilities are safe to begin with, then I will do that. And I would encourage persons to do that as well, to ensure that your establishment is not stigmatized as that's the place where all of these people lost their lives. They did not make sure that their establishment was safe for persons to be able to enjoy themselves for whatever event that might be at that facility. But I think we've come to the end. We've been here now for 2 hours. We will be ready to, no more questions. We could talk afterwards because, I'm sorry? Okay, so we could talk about that afterwards, because it really is 2 hours now that we've been here. the ministry itself would be. But I did answer that. I said that the Ministry of Entertainment, what we're talking about today, we don't monitor those things. However, we will take it back so that further discussion can be had in terms of how we move forward with the establishments. I did answer it. So I just want to thank everyone for being here today. The ministry is willing, ready, open to continue dialogue with you. You just have to reach out to us. We can schedule times to come and sit with you so we can talk more about whatever your concerns are. Right now, what we're trying to do is see how we can open up the entertainment sector in a safe environment that would work for everyone concerned. As I said, the information packets will be provided from the ministry so that you can know what is required of you in order to be able to have your events. When a number of events are probably already in the planning stages for the month of December, and so we would be able to provide you with the information that you need. Thank you so much for being so open. Thank you for the questions and the queries and the concerns. And there are suggestions that were also made as well that we can go back now and be able to address. So once again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone at the head table as well for taking the time to be here. And we just want to make sure that we can all work together for the safe opening, and that once we open, we can move through the phases of opening so that we can get to a point where the entertainment industry is moving at a pace that allows you to be able to see reap the rewards and benefits of the hard work you're putting into making sure that your events are successful. Thank you once again. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Remember to follow all of the protocols. Please don't drop your guards. Please, 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 please. And just remember to continue to wear your mask, hand sanitize, social distance, and who can be vaccinated, please, 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 please be vaccinated.